You're listening to an Ono Media podcast.
Good morning, and thanks for joining me for Rise in Crime, your morning caffeine hit all about crime. I'm Mama Jules, and I've received a request by a Rise in Crime listener named Maddie to cover the Madeline Soto case and the most recent updates that just came out last week. Now, I've watched this case, mostly peripherally, but I did expect the case to go to trial, so I was kind of delaying covering the case until that point. But if you ask, I will cover, so let's break it down by timeline, and then we can learn what happened in court last month. Madeline Soto was born on February 22nd of 2011. Now, the birth date is important here because it became a focal point of her potential disappearance. She was the daughter of Jennifer Soto and Tyler Wallace, but her parents never married. In fact, Tyler married another woman just 3 months after Madeline was born. Despite living in another state, Tyler was in contact with Madeline, and by accounts in the source material, he paid his child support and even sent extra money for some activities that Madeline was participating in. Now, in the fall of 2023, Madeline visited Texas and spent time with her father. It was the last time he would see her alive. Madeline and her mother, Jennifer, they lived in Kissimmee, Florida, where Madeline attended Hunters Creek Middle School. Various news articles state differing facts on this next point, but Jennifer began dating on and off and living with a man on and off, and his name is Stephen Stearns. Now, this seemed to be happening for about 4 years heading into 2024. Like I said, the source material is all over the place on this. I had some material say it was as little as 1.5 years. Other material said it was about 6 years. We're going to split the difference. So for about 4 years, these guys have been dating on and off. And as we're going to learn, it was a pretty much non-traditional, and I'll even say unhealthy environment for Madeline. Stephen was a little too cozy with her, and Jennifer could be accused of being a little too hands-off with Madeline. And that's a bad combo for a child. In February of 2024, Madeline celebrated her birthday, and it was a few days late. She celebrated on the 25th. Now, she had spoken with her father that day, and Tyler says she was, engaged and excited for her party. The next morning, Jennifer was awakened when Stephen got up to take the dog out for a walk. Jennifer fell back asleep, and she didn't wake again before her daughter Madeline was supposedly driven to school by her pseudo-stepfather, Stephen. According to Court TV, Stephen was employed by or worked at Walt Disney World. But on that day, February 26th of 2024, Stephen and Jennifer spent a good share of the day together. So maybe he didn't work that day at all, and maybe she only worked a little bit. What did occur on that day was a conversation between the two where Stephen casually dropped that he had done a factory reset on his phone. He was claiming something had screwed up during an update, and so this phone he's got's now back to square one. At about 4:30 that afternoon, Jennifer drove to Hunters Creek Middle School, planning to pick up Madeline. She wasn't there, and Madeline didn't have her phone with her. It was back home. Now, Jennifer figured she just accidentally hadn't taken it with her to school that day, and that's kind of weird. I mean, Madeline's a typical teenager, and Jennifer was surprised she didn't have it with her. But when she couldn't find Jennifer, the fact that she didn't have her phone became even more concerning. Not just because she couldn't contact her, but because Jennifer figured if Madeline was going to run away, she would have taken her phone with her. Well, that evening, Jennifer reported Madeline missing to local authorities via a 911 call placed by either an associate or a friend of hers. Unfortunately, it took several hours for police to respond to the call. It was taking so long that the friend or associate of Jennifer's placed a follow-up 911 call asking if the county was sending anyone to take a report. The next morning, the Orange County Sheriff's Office issued a release to the public. This about Madeline's disappearance, specifically requesting for the public's help. They're wanting kids who may know something about the missing 13-year-old to speak up. Well, obviously, the sheriff's office is interviewing Stephen and Jennifer on this day as well. Stefan was the last to say he saw her alive since she hadn't attended school that day. He said he dropped her off, but no one from the middle school interacted with Madeline. And in those interviews with Stefan, he's getting a little edgy, changing his answers to some of the details from that morning. And then other times, he's kind of complacent. So there are red flags flying for investigators. By day 3, February 28th, a full-scale search is being conducted. This isn't seeming to be a typical teen runaway, and authorities are concerned about some information they have been able to extract from Madeline's phone. In that information, she had mentioned that she wanted to live in the woods once she turned 13. And remember, that day had happened just 4 days before she went missing. Despite looking in wooded areas and searching near the middle school, following up on tips from other teens and searching in those areas where those tips were originated, authorities are coming up empty-handed. However, during one conversation held with Stefan, this was outside at one of the searches, Stefan supposedly willingly gave up his phone to detectives, and that's when a forensic audit began. The home shared by Jennifer, Stefan, and Madeline was also being searched. It was during day 3 of the investigation that detectives determined Stefan didn't drop Madeline off at school that morning. And Stefan, like I said, is getting edgy, if not paranoid. His phone is still in the hands of detectives, and according to Jennifer, he allegedly is pretty much freaking out at the hotel they are staying in while the house is being searched. Jennifer and Stefan, well, they finally hold a tough conversation. And that's weird because her daughter's missing. Why did it take until day 3 to hold a tough conversation? But they hold a convo where they decide that the police are definitely zeroing in on Stefan. They conclude he's suspect number 1. But Jennifer at this time is sticking by his side. And as the two went to sleep that night in the hotel, Jennifer was the only one sleeping. Stefan snuck out of the hotel. He drove about an hour north to a city called North Point. After spending some time there, he returned to the hotel. Now, to be fair, Stefan's mother and father live near North Point, but his mother went on to tell investigators she never saw her son that evening. On day 4, Stefan was arrested, not for Madeline's death, but for the information found on his cell phone. He is their prime suspect, but they don't have enough evidence for an arrest in Madeline's disappearance. They do have hundreds of disturbing images and videos of child sexual assault found on the cell phone and also stored in a Google account connected to the phone. Also evident in the forensic audit, the attempted factory reset on that phone. It was clear to auditors that someone had tried to delete information from the phone. Now, detectives pinpointed some of the child essay material to have originated inside the Kissimmee home belonging to Jennifer. Stefan was charged with sexual battery and possession of child sexual abuse materials. He has been held on no bond since day 4 of this investigation. When Stefan was asked about his relationship with Jennifer, he admitted that the unconventional nature of the relationship disturbed some people. Are you ready to be disturbed? Because Stefan, Jennifer, and Madeline shared a bed. He justified this behavior by saying that Madeline needed human contact to feel comfort. So basically, he's saying he's kind of just being a good guy here. But for me, it gets more disturbing. He allegedly tells authorities that on some nights, Jennifer needs more sleep. So he and Madeline will sleep in Madeline's bed together. Just the two of them. Well, during the last interview with Stefan, he clarified where he supposedly dropped Madeline off that morning. We know it wasn't the school. I mean, that's been shown by day 3. So he allegedly changes his story to a concept that he dropped her off at the Peace United Methodist Preschool. Now, detectives are concerned about a couple of things here. First, the timeline's off. He says he left the home at 7:30-ish, and he's dropping her off at 8:40-ish, and classes at the middle school do not begin until 9:30. Okay, so, basically what I'm telling you, things just aren't adding up with Stefan. But here's the other things that's concerning detectives about this timeline. It's about a 2-minute drive from the preschool to the middle school. Why drop her off at the preschool? Why have it be such a distance for her to then walk to school? He's been dating her mother on and off for a minimum of 1.5 years, most likely far more. He should clearly know where Madeline goes to school. I also always want to be truthful with facts, and in the affidavit, there is a portion redacted when they're talking about this drop-off. So we're not really sure what detectives do know about his car being near the preschool. They know something, and they felt that they needed to protect someone or keep it concealed for now. While they were uncovering the disturbing images while they're doing the forensic audit, detectives found a naked photo of one of Jennifer's former roommates. That photo appeared to have been taken by propping the phone up against the door, kind of down by the floor, where the camera can capture a photo just underneath the crack of the door. When the former roommate was asked about the photo, she told investigators she had not given permission for the photo to be taken. Can we just start adding up all of the things that are just kind of outrageous with Stefan? No wonder he's the prime suspect. Now, it was leap year in 2024, and on February 29th, investigators spoke with a former girlfriend of Stefan's. The relationship was brief with that girlfriend back in 2022, and it was apparently occurring simultaneously as Stefan and Jennifer were getting together. So he's got a couple of girlfriends going on here. The former girlfriend allegedly told officers that when she would ask Stefan to stay the night at her home, he would turn her down, saying he needed to sleep at Jennifer's house because Jennifer couldn't sleep unless Stefan was there. When that former girlfriend started digging for information about why she needed him there, he allegedly told her about Madeline and that the three shared a bed for Madeline's comfort. That's when the former girlfriend broke up with him and cut all ties. Well, all of this information and evidence is being gathered over those 5 days, but we still have no sign of Madeline. On March 1st, during a news conference, investigators revealed that they were, quote, confident that Madeline was no longer alive. They said evidence in Jennifer's home had led them to conclude that Madeline was killed there and then moved to another location. The lead detective said video evidence of Stefan throwing items into the dumpster at the apartment complex where Jennifer lives, well, that happened at 7:30 in the morning of the disappearance. Well, in the search of that dumpster, well, that led investigators to find Madeline's backpack and the school-issued laptop. Then investigators shared something about their recovered evidence that you just don't hear very often. They said they had video evidence of Stefan driving his silver Cadillac, and in that car with Stefan is Madeline. But investigators openly stated in that press conference that they believed her to be dead in the car. Other uncovered, yet not revealed evidence led search teams to a wooded area off a Hickory Tree Road in Osceola County. Now, that's south of Jennifer's home, roughly about 10 to 15 minutes if Google Maps isn't leading me astray. During that search, Madeline's body was discovered in the swampy grass. It was determined she had been suffocated and dumped in the wooded area. Now, up until this point, Jennifer has been standing by her man. But when detectives interviewed Jennifer again, she is now calling Stefan a master manipulator and a master liar. She allegedly told authorities she changed her mind after she was made aware of the child SA material on his phone. Okay, this nearly 3-hour interview with Jennifer, it's available online. And at times during the interview, Jennifer can be seen like slumped into the couch where she tells investigators that Stefan is guilty of grooming behavior and of abusing her child. But then also in the same interview, she calls the, quote, sex stuff not evil, but that the potential murder is evil. Well, the investigators determined in the affidavit that Jennifer had basically accepted the sexual abuse of her daughter. She didn't seem to be nearly as concerned about that as she was about the murder or the disappearance. All right, Stefan's in jail, and his charges now include murder, for which he pled not guilty. I'm including the next bit of info because it could affect the murder case. On March 2nd, the day after Madeline's body was found in the wooded area, a photo of her body was leaked online from the sheriff's office. Now, it was removed pretty quickly, but it was still leaked, and that could come back to haunt the investigation and the pending trial. You never want to show any sort of malpractice or bad behavior because it weakens the case in front of the jury. Also, the sheriff could be called as a witness in the trial, and because of the leaked photo, the sheriff has been added to a Brady list. What that means is that he has been placed on a list that notifies any defendant that his behavior or truthfulness, well, it might be in question. That's not good. That's not good for a trial. Well, over the next couple of days, more interviews with associates of Stefan were conducted. One such interview was with a gaming friend. That friend said that Stefan told him Jennifer and he were broken up, and that he didn't seem all that sad about breaking up with his girlfriend. But the friend said he allegedly did appear really upset about the bond he had created with Madeline and that his relationship with her might be over. Then in another interview with Stefan's parents, they revealed that they had found a torso of a sex doll in Stefan's bedroom at their home. His mother allegedly said that felt, quote, odd. She also said that the story he told them, following the disappearance of Madeline, she said it seemed rehearsed, and it didn't seem like he was being genuine with his reaction to the tragedy. Well, a little over a month after Madeline was found killed, Stefan called his father from jail. He allegedly told his father that he would have never wanted this outcome for Madeline. Stefan then allegedly said the following: "I'm not sure, really, that any one person is specifically responsible. It's probably a combination of factors that led to it." All right, interpret that however you choose. We do know this: more phone calls between Stefan and his father exist and have been obtained as evidence. We will see how those play out in the trial. On June 10th, 4 months after Madeline's murder, prosecutors determined that they would seek the death penalty for Stefan. Now, other pretrial motions have occurred over the last few months. Things like setting a trial date for the fall of 2025. They were clearing up some evidence issues and chain of custody, those types of motions. But over the last 2 weeks, 2 important motions have come about. First, Stefan's attorney has filed a motion to drop the death penalty, citing it is unconstitutional to seek that punishment. All right, personally, and I'm not a lawyer, but for me that seems weak, especially since this murder seems potentially premeditated with the accusations of grooming and the potential SA evidence. But we're just going to have to wait to see how the judge rules, because the second update might affect the first update. And that's, for me, the big one. Stefan's attorney on February 10th filed a motion seeking to suppress all cell phone evidence, arguing that the cell phone was unlawfully seized. When the officers asked if they could take his phone, they did not have a search warrant. Now, he did give consent. In fact, they allegedly double-checked with him, and he agreed by saying yeah to their request. He also gave them his 5-digit PIN code to unlock the phone. So you're probably thinking right now, well, of course, that's legal. But Stefan's attorney has an answer for that. The motion states that Stefan was under the influence of prescription anxiety medication when he gave consent. He had also been in interviews for hours and he hadn't eaten. So he has prescription meds on board with no food as a buffer. Stefan's attorney says that makes his consent invalid and that the search and seizure is then improper. The judge is expected to rule on that motion in late April. If that phone is ruled inadmissible, that will be devastating to the case. Not deadly, but devastating. I also want to note something here for you guys. In researching this case, I have rarely seen two people act more tired and exhausted, lifeless in their interviews that have been released by detectives. It almost seems like Stefan and Jennifer are like dozy. In one interview that lasted 5 hours, so I'll give him that. But in that interview, Stefan falls asleep. And like I noted about Jennifer, her daughter is dead, and she can't sit upright on the couch when being asked questions by detectives. Honestly, you guys, I'm not being judgy here. I'm reading context clues offered by their body language. They just seem sluggish. For me, I guess that's the best word, sluggish. Thank goodness I've never been in their shoes. But I think recognizing the behavior is important to understand the testimony that will be offered in this trial about their prescription drug use. And I also want to note that you can find rumors all over the place about Stefan selling the child essay material to fund his lifestyle. I didn't find that in what I would consider trusted source material. But if you look, it's there. And I didn't want you to think I ignored the case theme. We'll just have to wait to see if that's presented at trial. I'll obviously keep you updated on this case. The trial again is in fall of this year, and the motions will be ruled on in April. Let me know what you think. Now to a story out of Michigan/Pennsylvania. It spans both states and the 700 miles that Harrison Jones drove to allegedly burn down the house of his rival. On February 10th, Bensalem Police Department, and I hope I'm saying that right, well, they say that a Pennsylvania 2-story single-family dwelling with 6 adults inside was set ablaze at around 5 in the morning. The adults in the home were most likely asleep, and when they realized the house was burning, some of the adults they only really had one option. They had to jump from the second-story windows to escape the heat and the smoke and the flames. All 6 occupants of the home were transported to the hospital, and sadly, 2 dogs died in the fire that demolished the structure. Officials are saying the home is a complete loss. As police gathered evidence, nearby surveillance camera footage showed a black sedan pulling up near the home and a man exiting the car. The suspect was holding something in his hand as he walked towards the 2-story home. After about 15 minutes, the suspect is then seen running back towards his black car. As the suspect speeds out of the area, black smoke can be seen billowing up from the rear yard of the home. After another 30 seconds, a large explosion erupts from the home and the entire structure became engulfed in flames. Investigators then checked automated plate readers that were installed at some of the intersections. That's when they caught the black sedan exiting the neighborhood, and they recorded the license plate. That 2021 black Volkswagen Passat was linked to Brian Jones, a relative and housemate of Harrison Jones. But they weren't done investigating. Police interviewed the 6 people who were in the burned house, and one of them, a 21-year-old male, well, he had developed an online relationship with a woman in Michigan. You know, right near where Harrison Jones lives, and also 700 miles away from Pennsylvania. That 21-year-old guy said he had scheduled to drive to Michigan to meet the online love interest for the first time, and that was supposed to happen later that week. Well, guess who that woman's ex-boyfriend is? Yup, the online female used to date Harrison Jones. Police in Michigan secured a search warrant for the house shared by Brian Jones and Harrison Jones, and evidence seized included a lockpick, a cell phone, a computer, and of course, the Volkswagen Passat was seized as well. That's how they discovered the information backing up the online relationship and Harrison's, quote, need to snuff out the competition. When Harrison was arrested just 7 days after the fire, he still had burns on his arm. He was arrested and charged with 6 counts of attempted homicide. Now to our final case, and are you ready for your mind to be blown? because this one blew my mind, and I would expect it would do the same for you. ABC 15 out of Arizona is reporting that a state senator, Jake Hoffman, well, they're saying on January 22nd, he was pulled over for speeding. He was doing 89 in a 65 mile per hour zone. When he was pulled over, the Department of Public Safety says the trooper recognized the driver as Senator Hoffman. Now, the senator is saying he didn't demand anything of the trooper. Who knows? But what happens next is just crazy, because the Arizona State Legislature is currently in session, and the trooper could not or chose not to cite Jake Hoffman. Here's why. The state constitution, Article 4, Part 2, reads as follows. Members of the legislature shall be privileged from arrest in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of peace. So basically, they're covered for any misdemeanor. They shall not be subject to any civil process during the session of the legislature, nor for 15 days before the commencement of each session. That means the lawmaker has protection from getting a ticket. And this isn't the first time it's happened. Back in January, State Senator Mark Fincham was caught speeding, and he also was not cited. And back in 2018, Representative Paul Mosley was speeding and not cited. All three were granted immunity under that state constitution article. Representative Mosley back in 2018 was reported as doing 97 in a 55 mile per hour zone. He even admitted to the sheriff that sometimes he would drive 130 to 150 miles per hour in those zones. He told CBS News that he didn't break the law because he could. He just wanted to get home on weekends quicker. Well, he later apologized on Facebook for those insensitive comments. Following the reporting of these stories, State Representative Quang Nguyen has introduced a proposed amendment to the state constitution, this to end the immunity for traffic violations. But that resolution will not be on the ballot until 2026 because you have to amend the Constitution. That takes time. So currently, all Arizona lawmakers can continue to break the law as long as the legislative session is in session, as long as it's running. I should note, Senator Hoffman's office has yet to comment other than saying he did not invoke the law with that trooper. Go ahead and tell me what you think about this one. Laws for thee and not for me. And now to comments from YouTube and other social media. Morgan and Laura and Casey and Amber and Valeria and Grace, they and so many others expressed how grateful they were that some level of justice was served for baby Evelyn. She's the 13-month-old killed by her mother and then placed in a trash can in the back of the property owned by her family. And then Sherry let me know the city where this all happened, well, it's pronounced Bluntville, like Louisville, instead of Blountville, like I said. She also said she passes by baby Evelyn's gravestone when she visits the cemetery where her mother is buried. Sherry, please send baby Evelyn love and peace from the Rise and Crime community the next time you visit your mother's grave. And then Adrienne, she brought up a great point. Culture in 2025 is different. She said she remembers when Susan Smith was convicted of killing her children and how rare it was back then. But in just one episode of Rise and Crime, I covered 2 mothers who murdered their children. I agree. It's way more common now. And Christina said she has heard it mentioned more than once that baby Evelyn's mom seems so much like Casey Anthony, all with her cover-up lies. And to Melanie, who said, to pay no attention to someone who thinks I mention God too much. I got you, Melanie. As long as the victim's loved ones search for peace and they mention God, I'll be telling you guys about it. And finally, to the 4 beautiful little girls who were shot by their mom in Wyoming. When I sent the podcast to production, and big shout out to Jesus who helps me with that, well, I reported that 7-year-old Olivia was still alive in the Salt Lake City hospital and that her father Quinn was requesting prayers. Well, Olivia died Saturday evening. Quinn and his new wife, Cakes, posted that Olivia and her 9-year-old sister, Braylee, can now hold each other in heaven. So much love to those who are left to pick up the pieces from those senseless deaths. Well, that's your Thursday episode of Rise in Crime. Please tell a friend about this podcast. Also, please let me know what cases that are spiking your interest that you want me to talk about. Like I said, Maddie is who requested the Madeline Soto case, and I'll cover it if you ask for it. We always love 5-star reviews and positive comments here. And Q apparently has something to say. You can like and follow us on all of our social media accounts and our YouTube accounts that we have here at Oh No Media. That's Rise in Crime, Murder with My Husband, and Into the Dark. You can join me again on Monday for more morning crime news. I'm Mama Jules, and keep safe out there.